I know you've already heard plenty of people go through all these things, but you haven't heard me do it yet. So that's important. First off, we'll start with playing the video, which is just, I'm going to have a hard time explaining what this means and how wild and monumental and historic it is that we're all living through this actually happening over the weekend. And we also have to keep in mind just how close it came to actually killing him. You're talking about the slight movement of his head just before the shot was taken. If that would not have happened, he would more than likely be dead. And this country's already different because this happened. But if that would have been the case, oh boy, just pure luck or grace of God or whatever it is, or just this is what happened. It's absolutely wild the way that this all went down. We'll play the video that I'm sure everyone has heard, but I don't know. It still gets me every time. It's tough to even believe it's real. Here we go.
Take a look at what happened.
Move to the spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Up. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
We ready?
Shooters down. Shooters down.
Are we good?
Shooters down.
Shooters down. Are we good to move?
Shooters down. We're good to move.
We're clear.
We're
Let's
clear.
move.
We're clear.
Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
Got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay. Let's shoot down. Let's shoot.
Watch out.
Wait.
So, like I said, just difficult to accept the fact that that was even a real thing that happened. It might take a while for that to fully sink in. Thankfully, Trump was okay, just hit him in the ear. We do not have any official word on his shoes. And so I would like to know a little bit more information. Of course, in that moment, you see, can make a tiny joke, just a little bit of joke, because we joke in all sorts of situations. That's just real shock right there, like not knowing exactly what's happening. You're just thinking about your shoes. My shoes were knocked off and I want to put my shoes back on. That's, yeah, like Josh said, that's just pure shock. But then having the presence of mind to say, wait and put your fist up in the air, of course, has provided us with what's got to go down in history as one of the most iconic photos we'll ever see, historic photos that we're ever going to see. It doesn't matter if you like Trump or don't like Trump. As everyone here knows, I've never voted for Trump or Biden. The fact that this photo was taken with his fist up in the air, blood on his face, and an American flag flying in the background, just wow. You can't help but just get chills and feel that American spirit when you see that photo. Even if with all the problems that we have going on in the country and all the negative things that we've said about Donald Trump and that we will say about Donald Trump in the future, you can't help but really feel that photo. Trump's posts on Truth Social, in my opinion, have been great, like actually great, not great in the sense like, oh, that's a great Trump post, but great in that you can feel that he is a human being. From these posts, so I'll read a couple of them. The first one goes like this. It says, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for the rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place. So I realized then what was happening. God bless America. You know, it's a good post. And speaking of the victim who did die, there's a fundraiser going on. It's just absolutely crazy once again. There's a fundraiser for the victims at the rally. $4.3 million has been raised so far on this GoFundMe. That's crazy too. Corey Comperatore, 50 years old, passed away on Saturday while trying to shield his family from the shooter. Corey suffered a gunshot to the head and died at the rally. The emergency room doctor present at the rally attempted to help him and had the intention of giving him CPR, but found that he had no pulse. He dove onto his family to protect them at the rally. He was also a volunteer firefighter. Just absolutely tragic, of course. Here's a picture of him. And also a post from his daughter, which says, yesterday time stopped, and when it started again, my family and I started living a real-life nightmare. What was supposed to be an exciting day that we had all looked forward to, especially my dad, turned into the most traumatizing experience someone could imagine. She says, I know the media will cover this event, and I'm going to try my best to stay away from looking at everything, especially because I've already seen and lived through it in real time, but I want everyone to know what the media will not cover and will not say about him. He was the best dad a girl could ever ask for. My sister and I never needed for anything. You call, he would answer, and he would do whatever it is you needed. And if he didn't know how he would figure out how. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and also looked after our church and our members as family. The media will not tell you that he died a real-life superhero. They're not going to tell you how quickly he threw my mom and I to the ground. They are not going to tell you that he shielded my body from the bullet that came at us. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us, and I want nothing more than to cry on him and tell him thank you. I want nothing more than to wake up and for this to not be reality for me. We lost a selfless, loving husband, father, brother, uncle, son, and friend, and I will never stop thinking about him and mourning him until the day that I die too. July 13th will forever be the day that changed my life. I will never be the same person I was less than 24 hours ago. Dad, I love you so much that there aren't enough words to express how deep that love goes. I know you'll give heaven some hell. I know that God is proud of the man that came to his gates yesterday. Yeah, tough stuff. Tragic stuff. Trump says later on, thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday. After we go through some of these details, by the way, I'll be giving you more, of my opinions on the matter. But of course, just doing a little roundup and making sure that we mention all these things. And yes, I wanted to make sure that we read that entire post from Corey's daughter because that's super important. Thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win. I truly love our country and love you all and look forward to speaking to our great nation this week from Wisconsin. DJT. He also truths out Unite America later on, and I hope that this is the version of Donald Trump that we stick with. I happen to like this version of Trump. He's talking about really important things and being serious about things, not just, throwing blame everywhere, which there's plenty of blame to go around all over the place. He even started by thanking the Secret Service in his first post, who clearly, in a complete failure of their duties, along with the local law enforcement, had the guy taken a good shot, he would be dead right now. From a vantage point that was 180 or so yards away. People keep saying meters. This is America. I don't know what people are talking about. Okay. 180 yards or so away. That's plenty close enough for him to have been hit. But as we mentioned, the guy, you know, didn't make a shooting team. Also, we also found out that he was confronted by a police officer just before taking the shot. We'll talk more about that. Statements from other important figures. This is where we'll get into a little bit of the political talk, just a little bit here. Barack Obama says there's absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. And then, of course, Joe Biden has given a couple press conferences, Oval Office address, trying to make hay while the sun's shining, talking about other stuff. I think this likely is going to result in him remaining on the ticket. This whole remaining united and all of that and all the political division is probably going to equal him staying on the ticket. And as most of you probably agree, I think that Trump will probably end up winning this election in a landslide. It could be a complete embarrassment, like Reagan-esque embarrassment or Reagan-esque win for Trump. We'll see. You never know how things can change. But of course, we've got Trump's VP pick, which we haven't mentioned yet, which we do know now. And also the classified documents case was dropped. And, as I tweeted, he just continues to be the luckiest guy in the world. Here's a little bit of Joe Biden's statement.
An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity. We'll debate and we'll disagree. That's not going to change, but we're going to not lose sight, in fact, who we are as Americans. I urge everyone, please, don't make assumptions about his motives or his affiliations. Let the FBI do their job and their partner agencies do their job.
I do think that part of his motive was that he hated Trump and wanted him to be dead. That is possible, although I will discuss other theories about this guy. The whole unity idea is great, and I hope this can happen. But as people have clearly already been mentioning beforehand, that's going to be tough. Like what happens when you repeatedly call someone Hitler, or that they're going to usher in a fascist dictatorship, or that this might be the last election that we ever have as Americans because this is going to be the end of democracy. And let's say that is part of this guy's motive. We don't know everything yet. We don't know a lot of anything about what led this kid to do this. He's apparently one of the only 20-year-olds in the country without any social media. What people, I think, have to take away from this, if you're going to go the idea of the rhetoric in the country, the temperature is too hot in the country, and so it's got to be turned down. That's great. We've got a little bit of issues with that here on this show. We throw out a lot of rhetoric about government in general and the tyranny of the government and how they murder people all around the world and how they essentially enslave you by taking your money. And we say things like that all the time, and we're going to continue saying things like that all the time. And so what people have to, I think, come to grips with is that that's not really about a specific person. That's about the nature of government itself. And if you think that words like that justify some kind of an assassination, I would tell you that you're wrong. Even if you took every single thing that we said seriously and we were right about every single thing that we say, doesn't mean that you assassinate anyone. Because even if you thought that murder was okay, what would you achieve by doing that? What happens when we topple a dictator overseas? Someone else comes in the power. What happened after Jan 6? The government got more powerful. What happens if you were to kill Trump? If that were your goal, Trump would actually get more powerful. The right would actually get more powerful. Like if that was your goal, if that was the goal of this Thomas Crooks, I think was his name. If that was your goal, then this is a really stupid way of going about it. Trump's going to die. sooner than a lot of other people. He's old, but if you assassinate him, he's going to live forever. And that's what people have to realize. And so, without attacking the actual nature of the government itself and the power that the government has, singling out specific people in the government and attacking them accomplishes no goals whatsoever. And so that's why it's important for us to attack and say these things about the government, about the power that they have. But it's rarely ever about a specific person. We talk about Biden a lot. I don't even think Biden's doing anything. Sure, we've had terrible policies that have happened. Did those even come from Biden himself as a person? I don't know. He's probably laying up in a hospital bed half the time. So it doesn't and what happens if you were to take him out? Nothing. Nothing happens except for you get someone worse comes in behind him, and then you galvanize the left and you make everything worse afterwards. That's what happens in these situations. So even though we're going to continue saying a lot of stuff about how the government steals from you, enslaves you, murders people overseas, murders people even here in the U.S., removes your rights, does all these terrible things, that doesn't mean that you should ever go after any individuals in the government, because it's not just about those people. And unfortunately, what happened with Trump is that people decided that Trump was uniquely bad. They got this disease. I don't think they identified what virus it was, but the symptoms, the syndrome that you come down with is named by many of our medical professionals as Trump derangement syndrome. That's the disease that you get. Those are the symptoms that you live through. And they have somehow decided that Trump is uniquely bad. And I don't think that Trump is uniquely bad. And even if I did, I still don't want to go after him, because I don't believe that you should just have the right person in office, the right benevolent dictator in office, because the government itself should not have the powers that the government has. And when you talk about the violent rhetoric or the temperature being turned up a bunch, I think that that is a natural outgrowth of the amount of power that the government has. Anyone that gets in office, it becomes a life or death election for a certain amount of people because of the amount of things that they have their hands in. And that's what we actually need to change. You don't change it by swapping out a person, by taking out a person. That's just going to end up with something even worse afterwards. So I wanted to clarify that. But then you also can't be surprised if you go out there and you single out this one guy and he is uniquely bad. He is uniquely Hitler 2.0. He's going to destroy democracy. And then you come out and say, well, political violence is never acceptable. Dude, you just told me that if Trump wins, that he's going to be a dictator, that we're not going to have any more elections. He's going to institute Project 2025, Prima Nocta, and we're going to have Handmaid's Tale going on here in the United States. And this is what we're all going to be living through for the rest of our lives if Trump wins in November. If you actually believed that, because what they would say is, well, political violence is always bad. We got to win the ballot box. Okay, well, what happens if you lose and you never get to have an election again? That's it. No more elections. Forever. It's done after that. Well, you don't get to go to the ballot box and solve the problem again next time, do you? Everyone's acting like, oh, of course, it's just the ballot box, or battle box, as Biden called it in his Oval Office address last night. You got to go to the battle box. Okay? It's like a cross between the ballot box and BattleBots, which is a really cool show, and I watch anytime it's on. Recommend everyone go watch that show. I know it has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but fun show, good stuff. You can't say, oh, political violence is always bad. We got to win at the ballot box, when you say there's not going to be any more ballots after this. How can you assume that everyone's going to assume that you'll just have to win at the next time ballot boxes are allowed, because they're going to be made illegal if Trump wins, when you're telling them that's going to be the case? This is it. This is the end of democracy. This is Hitler. This is authoritarianism. It's all over. Handmaid's Tale, all this stuff. So you got to be careful with the rhetoric, and what people really need to pay attention to is the hyperbole. You can talk about how bad these policies would be. This equals this for people. Doesn't even have to be uniquely ascribed to to Trump. It could just be Republicans in general, or as I said, the nature of government. Government has too much power. You want to fight someone, fight government, but the individuals are just people who have won elections, and they will just get switched out with someone else. So assassinating a single individual doesn't solve anything. You want to go towards the nature of government itself. That's what has to be fixed. But I don't like these people coming out here and saying, our condolences, political violence is never acceptable. We pray for the speedy recovery. Thank God Trump wasn't injured. This is the guy that you just said was Hitler like a week ago. You just said that. And so what I tweeted out was the people who say he's Hitler or going to destroy democracy or going to destroy America are either hypocrites or they're liars. They're either lying when they say all of those things and they know that they're lying and they're just saying it because they want to win an election, the specific election, 2024, November 2024. Yeah, we told you it's the most important election ever. Actually, it's just another election. We just have to keep coming up with crazier and crazier ways to get people out to vote because we all suck. And so we have to get them enthused to go out there and vote. And so this is our strategy this time. If you elect this person, you're going to die. And that's what we've officially made it to. Or they're hypocrites and they do believe all those things, but they're just going to come out and say, thank God he wasn't killed, because that's what the media wants me to say right now. And I have to condone violence. And so therefore I'm going to come out and condone violence, even though I do believe that if he wins, he's going to be Hitler. You know what I mean? Let's see. We can go past some of these tweets. I'm acting like I'm talking to a producer. Well, Joe Walsh, former Republican, who we've had on the show before. Nice guy. I liked him in person. He was a cool guy. What I can tell you about Joe Walsh is that he genuinely believes the things that he says, I think. Because he said a lot of stuff, and most of his time is spent tweeting about Donald Trump and how this is the end of democracy and all these things. But now he says, who's responsible? Maybe he's taking responsibility here. I don't know. Maybe he is. He says, we're all responsible. We're at a point in this country now where both sides hate the other side, and the hate now increasingly leads to violence. A hammer to Paul Pelosi's head, a rifle shot at Donald Trump. Talk to high-profile people on both the left and the right. Most put up with constant threats of violence. We're all responsible for getting us to this point where we consider the people we disagree with to be our mortal enemy. That's an important line, once again, to go back to something I said previously. When the power of the government is so strong, so far-reaching that it invades every single portion of every single American's lives, it becomes a life or death situation every time you have an election. This is an outgrowth of that. This is a consequence of that, of the power the government has. This should all be boring as hell. Oh, that person won the presidency. Well, that'd be crazy to see what their signature looks like on those constitutional laws that were passed. Okay, anyway. This is a dangerous place to be. Paperwork. And more violence will be coming from both left and right unless we decide to get off this road of hate and stop the violence, because it's up to all of us to stop it. Okay. So I just want to know if he actually thinks that Trump is going to be the end of democracy, or if he just tweets that because it gets a lot of retweets and it makes him really popular with a lot of people. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. Has he been lying, or is he a hypocrite? Which one? J.D. Vance, the new nominee for vice president, says today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Now, it's a good assumption. I think it's a decent assumption at that point to assume this. But we actually don't know for sure that that is what led to the assassination. But like I said, it's a fair and valid assumption. A disappointing retweet to that is from Nick Gillespie from Reason, who said JFC. Only he said the words. You guys know what JFC stands for. The Ohio State University, the Ohio State University should be deeply embarrassed by this alum. I did enjoy the ratio that Nick Gillespie got online. It was a lot. There's 1,000 comments on this post, which is, way more than he normally gets. And it's all a bunch of people saying, hey, that is a ridiculous thing to say. It's a perfectly valid and reasonable assumption to think that a person radicalized by the talk that Trump is the most dangerous person to exist since the 1930s and 40s, and that he's going to be an authoritarian fascist, authoritarian on day one, the end of democracy, bloodbath, all these things. Perfectly reasonable to assume that saying words like that, if you mean them, if you're not just lying, but if you mean those words, that it's a life or death situation for millions of people as to whether or not this person becomes president, and that you may be able to find a way to justify stopping this person. So that's a ridiculous thing. Now on to a little bit about the shooter, and then we'll talk about the Secret Service. I found this video from someone that went to school with Thomas Crooks to be compelling. So I wanted to say a few words on it. This says, as we did find out, Thomas Crooks was a registered Republican who also donated to a progressive super PAC. He donated $15 to a progressive super PAC on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. And then 8 months later, he registered as a Republican to vote. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that at all. Clearly, he's not a MAGA supporter or Trump supporter, so they won't be able to put this on a Trump supporter for trying to kill Trump. I highly doubt. Anyway, of course, there's some conspiracy theories that we will talk about towards the end as well. Let's go to this video from someone who went to school with the shooter, and we got a few other things that we're going to go through. Let's see, 30 minutes in, we're doing just fine. Doing just fine.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
He would sit alone at lunch. He was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're going to see someone like that, and they're going to target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but he was just bullied. He was bullied so much.
This is high school.
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
If you got kids in school or you got people in your life, try not to be mean to them, even if they look weird or they act weird. That could easily be one of the reasons that this happened. As we talked earlier, he also had tried to get on his shooting team in school and was rejected after they could tell that he wasn't going to be a good shot. I don't want to leave out the possibility here because we have no other information. Registered Republican donated to a progressive super PAC. We have no other information really than that. A loner wasn't able to get on the shooting team, was wearing a shirt from a gun YouTube channel. If he had enough mental problems, enough issues going on in his life, he could have it could simply be this situation right here. I've been picked on and bullied my entire life. Tried to join the shooting team. I'm still obsessed with guns. I have a shirt from a YouTube channel that's all about shooting. So I'm obsessed with shooting, or at least very interested with shooting. Those a-holes didn't let me on the shooting team, and everyone was so mean to me throughout my life. I have no friends. And so there's a former president coming to town. Hey, I'm going to take my dad's rifle and I'm going to kill the president from 180 yards away. And all those a-holes at my school are going to know that they shouldn't have messed with me. And my coach, who wouldn't let me on that shooting team, is going to know that I was good enough to pick off the president from a moderate distance with an AR-15. Guess it depends on what kind of sights he had on that thing. I don't know. So it could easily be that. It could. It seems unlikely, of course, but there are a lot of people with a lot of problems in their lives. But that could be the whole story here. Maybe it had nothing to do with the fact that it was even Trump. Maybe if Biden would have came there that weekend, it would have been Biden. I want everyone to keep that in mind, which is one of the reasons I haven't been super engaged on X over the last couple days, because as you guys like to know, we do this super annoying thing where we like to have all the information before we tweet out about a situation. You know, one of those things. And doesn't make for viral tweets. I'll tell you that. Does not make for viral tweets. But that could be the case. Let's see. What was the next thing in my list? This is just another crazy circumstance that happened. And then we're going to watch the video again. There's this great video going around that's got all of the cell phone videos time synced to it. There were people yelling that there was someone on the roof with a gun. There were people noticing that he was on the roof, laying down on the roof up to 2 minutes before the shot actually happened. And so that will obviously lead us into talking about the Secret Service a little bit. This other crazy thing that happened was that a police officer did try to go up the, I'm assuming, ladder that led to the roof of the building. The gunman, Crooks, turned his gun around, pointed at the police officer. So the police officer immediately retreated back down the ladder. And that is right before he turned his gun back around and got off the shot that hit Trump in the ear. So that might be the only reason that Trump didn't die, because he wasn't able to just sit there and get the shot off. He had to turn around, point his gun at the police officer. Police officer went back down the ladder. Then he immediately went back around, got Trump back in his sights, and then got the shots off. That could literally be why Trump's alive right now. Like I said, it's absolutely unbelievable to think about the fact that had Trump not turned his head like he did right before the shot happened, he would probably be dead. And we'd be living in an even more different world than we're living in right now. But let's watch this video, and we'll get into a little bit of Secret Service stuff. We'll watch I thought this was interesting. It's almost 4 minutes long, but it's got several different cell phone videos. And so that'll help us kind of dive into the Secret Service completely failing at their duty, which is to protect the person that they're protecting. You know, that's just a fact of the matter. There's not supposed to be a person who gets several shots off and kills people at the event. That's like their job. And so that's a failure, clearly, on their part. No offense to the guys that bought shirts from a merch store. Let's watch this time sync video.
If he was doing his job, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful place with a gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a senator.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if it happened. We have the strongest border ever in recorded history. We're the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring. I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit over it. that chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that says...
This is a little over 2 minutes now. It happens at about 2 minutes from the time this video starts. It wasn't immediately that they were alerting police, but it did kind of show police walking around the building around that time. And so that's probably when that officer that we just talked about started going up the ladder onto the roof. I think the issue, well, we'll get into a little bit of the issue, but there's an issue here of lack of communication, because let's say that there was a local police officer that engaged this shooter, which that is the report. From what I heard, they had to kind of supplement the Secret Service a little bit because there weren't enough resources. This is a lack of communication. The officer should have been able to immediately communicate to the Secret Service that there was a guy on the roof. And in fact, they were already looking at the guy on the roof through their scopes from the vantage point of the people who took out the shooter. We've seen that. Now, let's finish this video real quick, because
20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit over that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that says...
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
We got breaking news. We got breaking news coming in. Shots fired. Seems to be shots fired at the Trump rally. Is he okay? We need to go live right now. We are live right now at the Trump rally. We don't know if President Trump has been shot. We know he hit the ground. We do not know if President Trump has been shot. He's up. He's up. Shots are still continuing to be fired. He's giving a thumbs up, everybody. He's giving a thumbs up. Breaking news right now. This is
okay. Lord, I'm sorry. By now, I should have accepted that this is a real thing that happened. It's just, I think I'm having a tough time, realizing just how big it is. Plus, it's been a really long, few days. So I am very tired. Amanda here, co-host of Good Morning Liberty, said that there might have been communication. We know the Secret Service sniper kind of got the guy in his sights just beforehand. And that could have been from a tip from one of the local officers. So yeah, and I'm sure that they had some kind of communication. I'm sure they did. So maybe it's not the communication that's the biggest issue here. The absolute biggest issue, in my opinion, is that how the heck? Now this is a satire, like funny, sarcastic post. How the heck did they not secure the top of these buildings? Personal story here real quick. I saw Trump speak at the LP convention. And when I was talking to my wife beforehand, she was like, I don't really feel good about this. And I was like, why not? She's like, well, because so many people hate Trump, sometime someone, something's going to happen. He goes out speaking all the time. Something's going to happen eventually. It could be at the LP convention. There's probably a lot more people there at the LP convention that hated him than you get at a normal Trump rally. And I was like, oh, no, it's fine. Secret Service, they got it. It's all taken care of. This hasn't happened since 1981. They've got this all locked down. But the idea that they left these buildings unsecured with a clear rooftop with a line of sight to the stage, that those were unsecured, is one of the most asinine things I've ever seen from a group of people whose job this is supposed to be. And remember, this guy didn't have like a sniper rifle or anything. He had an AR-15. And so a little bit shorter range there than even if he had a sniper rifle. There's other buildings here in this picture that also should have been secured. Not just this one, this closest building to the stage, that one, sure. Not even these other ones where if you took something like a 308 up there instead of an AR-15, that you could easily, still, if you were a good shot with an AR-15, you'd be able to hit him with that too. But these other buildings out here, all of these should have been secured. There's way too many rooftops out here. I'm shocked. Unless you know what. Or they just had a shortage of resources because Jill Biden was also giving the speech somewhere in the area, and they had to divert some resources that day. Didn't have their full manpower and lady power. We saw that was super useful as well. And so they did the best they could do. I don't know. And for all we know, they mentioned the Trump. They said, hey, we don't have enough guys out here. We can't secure these rooftops. And Trump was like, that's fine. We're doing it anyway. These are my people. I'm not worried about it. That could have happened too. This post, which was funny, it said, before blaming the Secret Service for a security failure, you need to realize that the building where the shooter was located was outside of the Pac-Man security bubble. There was nothing the USSS could do to stop the shooter. Somehow, this building that was 180 yards away, whatever the official number is, not secured. Guys, that's not good. Clearly, that's a terrible idea. Let me tell you what. And it has led to some people to come up with some great theories on what could potentially be going on here. Yeah, my brother's in the group, said 180 yards, child's play. Drew, what do you think? Personal conversation here between myself and my brother right now. Me and my brother right now. How far away would you say that stuff on the other side of the pond was that time we were shooting the M1 Grand and the other like World War II rifles that you had? It's over 100 yards. I know that. We were doing that with no scopes, just old iron sights out there, knocking these targets off. Yeah, 150 to 200 with no scope. We were shooting it. Not just my brother who was in the Marines. Okay, he probably got way more hits than I did. But I did too. We were ripping up these targets on the other side of the pond, which were vacuums, by the way, if you wanted to know. Old vacuums. You add a scope onto this? Onto an AR-15 or someone with a 308 or something like that? And they don't have that perimeter secured? What are we doing here? And so, of course, that's led to some theories on the whole thing. Maybe this was the plan all along. I can't say either way. Let me defend 5 of the Secret Service agents who got God Hates Feds shirts from GodHatesFeds.com. So how could they have potentially gone along with this? Well, there's a lot of other people out there. Yeah, this needs to be fully investigated. Fully investigated. 100%. And I'm sure the FBI is going to get to the bottom of this. Last thing here pertaining to this, the other conspiracy theory that I'll admit at first. Listen, Trump won the election on Saturday. All right? Getting shot in the ear is the shot heard around the world was Trump getting shot in the ear and someone getting killed, 2 other people getting critically injured. Technically going to be a good thing for the Trump campaign, I believe. Now, first off, they didn't need this to happen because they're already polling to win the election by essentially a landslide. First off, you have to consider whether or not it would be worth it. And worth what? That's a good question. Would it be worth the theory goes like this. The Trump campaign clearly colluded with this kid who was a registered Republican to act out a fake assassination attempt in order to catapult Trump further into the lead and into the presidency. That's a theory. According to Charlie Kirk, he says the top political advisor to Democrat megadonor Reid Hoffman sent an email last night to journalists arguing for the possibility the assassination attempt against Donald Trump was staged by Trump for political benefit. According to Dmitry Melhorn, one possibility, which feels horrific and alien and absurd in America, but is quite common globally, is that this shooting was encouraged and maybe even staged so Trump could get the photos and benefit from the backlash. So it goes something like this. First off, the shooter has to be willing to die, so they got to do that. Good point, Josh. He's got to be willing to die, put his life on the line to put Trump even further in the lead in a race that he's already leading in, and he's leading so badly that people are pushing the current sitting president of the United States to drop out of the election. That's how much people think Trump is already going to win before this happened. But you got to find a kid, loner, who's willing to die just to add a couple points onto the election, even though Trump's already in the lead. And this kid has to be an expert marksman. I'm talking one of the best marksmen you've ever seen in your entire life. How good? That he would intentionally fire off a shot that would whiz by and hit Donald Trump in the ear less than an inch away from a fatal wound into his head. Okay, so you got to do that. You got to find an expert marksman. Let's choose a kid who was kicked off of a shooting team in high school because he wasn't good at shooting guns. And then you also have to choreograph this whole thing because Trump is moving around wildly during this time, waving his hands around, probably beating on the podium, doing stuff like that. Could turn his head at any moment. And so what you'd have to do is beforehand, you got to choreograph this whole thing. Practice it, plan it, time it out. Each movement of the head has to be perfectly timed and executed so that the shooter knows to shoot you in the ear the moment it becomes visible because you just turned your head to that direction. All while, of course, he's fighting off these lowly and ignorant local police officers who were not aware of the plan in the first place, like the Secret Service was. And then he fires off that shot, hits someone in the ear. They fire off a few more just for good measure, kills some people in the audience too. Also, you can get ahead in the election that you're already ahead in. It's a theory. I'm not saying it's not a theory, but that is a ridiculous theory, folks. That is absolutely a ridiculous theory. All those things have to be true. All the things that I just said have to be true for that theory to get worked out, for that to actually be real life. I'm not one for writing off conspiracy theories, but I don't think Trump would go along with a terrible marksman who didn't get on his high school shooting team, shooting him within an inch of taking his life perfectly during a rally where you're moving around more than several inches at a time, and he's just going to clip you in the ear, not the head, we promise. You good with that, Trump? Yeah, we're good with that. Of course, maybe they didn't tell him, and it was worth the risk for the people who apparently their livelihoods depend on Trump getting the election. But I guess it's worth the risk for them. I'm not sure. You decide. I'm not here to tell you what is and what isn't. I'm just, yeah, that's not, it isn't. Isn't is the answer. Fake blood and blanks, that's a good one. There you go. They poked a hole in his ear with a hole puncher probably when he got in the van. But when he grabbed it, he had one of those packs of blood that he actually smashed that pack of blood, capsule, like a blood capsule for Halloween, up against his ear. And but they used real bullets for the other people in the crowd, or maybe they were just actors. I don't know. Some of you people on the left, you tell me. Maybe those were hired actors at the event. Not sure.